Yeah, we're going to get started. So my name is Diego with Farm Variant Coalition. Joining me today is Sky Tony with Noble Research Institute. He is a regenerative ranching advisor with Noble Research Institute. Um, he received a bachelor's degree in education and master's degree in environmental studies with Baylor University and a master's degree in sustainable agriculture and food environment from Sam Houston State University. Tony grew up in Texas and Oklahoma, and after working internationally for nearly a decade, returned to Texas, where he manages a small family livestock operation. His areas of interest include working in sync with nature by leveraging ecosystem processes for the health of the land, livestock and livelihood, collaboration, and agriculture advocacy. He is passionate about empowering farmers and ranchers to thrive in a robust, resilient, regenerative food system that prioritizes local ag production, equitable access to healthy food, and ecological sustainability. At Noble Research Institute, Sky focuses on ecosystem and business management, diversification, livestock production, consumer engagement, and networking. So, Sky, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. All
And
right.
then, as always, for any questions, if you can put them in the chat or Q&A, and we'll get through them throughout the webinar at the end. But yeah, take it away, Sky.
All right. Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here today. We are going to chat a little bit about regenerative agriculture. So my goal for today is to intro what regenerative agriculture is, some of our 6 principles that we employ, and then tie that into how that helps your livestock, your land, your legacy. And as we do that, I'm going to introduce a little bit about Noble. So for those of y'all who aren't familiar with the Noble Research Institute, we're the nation's largest agricultural research organization. We were founded in 1945 in Oklahoma. So at the tail end of the Dust Bowl, our founder realized that farmers and ranchers needed some assistance, some good support to keep them on the land and steward the land well. So after he saw the kind of devastation of the Dust Bowl, really engaged with that. And so our mission from there, and then it is still today to guide farmers and ranchers in applying those regenerative principles that yields healthier soil, more productive grazing land, and business success. And so that's what I'm going to be here talking to you today about. For us at Noble, we really put our money where our mouth is. So we've got multiple ranches that we actually manage. So it's close to 14,000 acres in southern Oklahoma. And so we steward those ranches with regenerative principles. So the same things that we're sharing with y'all today is the same principles and practices that we put to work on our ranches. And so we have a lot of partnerships with different folks, and we have a research team in-house. So we research how that goes and how to be more effective, and then we turn that into education like this. And we offer consultation, virtual and in person throughout the country. And also kind of our mainstay is our courses. So we offer courses ranging from business in like ag business courses to grazing, land management, orchards, and all the whole gamut to help farmers and ranchers succeed, stay on the land, steward their land well, and then be able to pass that over to the next generation. So as we talk about regenerative ag, you may have heard this term thrown around for the past few years. It's kind of become a buzzword of sorts. We actually have some stuff coming out of Washington that's helping prop up and encourage regenerative ag, which could be great. But in essence, what regenerative agriculture is it's at its core is taking degraded land and through the process of these principles that are ecologically based, restoring that land for agriculture and for health of the ecosystem and the community. And so I really like what Dr. Williams with Understanding Ag, he talks about regenerative grazing, and he says it's the process of rebuilding, repairing, revitalizing, and restoring ecosystem function. If you look up regenerative agriculture or just regenerate on dictionary.com, it talks about it being something that you recreate or renew or restore. And my favorite, I think, is Cambridge Dictionary that says the definition of regenerate is to improve a place or system, especially by making it more active or more successful. And so that's my goal today, is to give you some insight into regeneration, into regenerative ag, so that you can make your operation more successful, so that your soil, your land is more biologically active, so that your livestock are healthier, and that your legacy is really strengthened as well. And so regenerative ag is kind of like if you imagine a three-legged stool, you've got the ecological, you've got the economic, and then you also have that piece of quality of life. That is a really important piece to keep in mind that we integrate into regenerative ag. So it's a more holistic kind of picture. And as we get started, before we jump into some of the details, I want to try a activity that we do in some of our courses, but I'm going to do it here online, and we'll see how it goes. I think it'll be a good picture of what we're going to jump into. So this activity we call scattered numbers. We use this in some of our courses, and so everybody's going to participate. Your camera will be off, your mic can still be off, but at your computer or your phone, I want you to have some kind of pen, paper, pencil, something like that to jot down a number with. And I'm going to give you 60 seconds. And in that 60 seconds, I'm going to flash up on the screen here a bunch of scattered random numbers. And you're going to start by finding number 1. Once you find number 1, you can go on to find number 2. And then once you find number 2, wherever it is on the page or on the screen, then you can go to number 3. Don't skip numbers. You have to go in sequence. So you start with 1 and you try to see how high you can go. 1, then finding 2, then finding 3, and on and on. Before we begin, I'm going to look at the chat. Do we have any questions? Do we need to clarify anything? Let's see.
I
See
don't
anything in the
see
chat?
I don't see anything in the chat. So I think we're ready to go.
All right. So I'm gonna start my timer, and you're gonna take 60 seconds to find as high a number as you can, going in sequence there. All right. Okay. Stop. Now write down, or if you don't have something to write, remember that number, the number that you got to there. Now, some of y'all may have gotten pretty far, some of y'all not so much, but wherever you landed, I'm going to offer you one key that I think can significantly change your success. And so here's the key here. I'm dividing this image into 4 quadrants. And then we're going to start in the top left quadrant and find number 1. And then number 2. So you're going clockwise. And then there's number 3, number 4, number 5, 6. Are you getting the picture? So this little key here, this insight, this framework that I'm giving you, I think may even double your success. So before we go on, why don't everybody throw in the number that you got to here in the chat? What number did you get to, Doug? I see you got to 17. Kimberly's 13. Christy's 15. All right. Now, y'all are doing great. Look at this. A lot of teens. Oh, a 23. Wow, Steve. 35. All right. Well, we got some great numbers here. Okay. But with this tool, I want you to go through it again. I'm going to give you 60 more seconds. And in that 1 minute, we'll see how high you can go this time. Start at 1 again. You can't start off from where you left off. Go all the way back to 1 so it's fair. And then using this, go forward. You ready? Let's go. All right, you're halfway there. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. All right, everybody, why don't you throw in the chat what number you got to this time? Seeing some 50s, 40s, 30s. Nice. Okay. So what made the difference? The key, right? The understanding of the process and how that framework works. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make this segue. So this activity kind of relayed the importance of understanding how the process functions and having a framework and insight. And we're going to give you some keys that hopefully will do the same thing that this activity did in this scenario, but for you on your operations, on your farm or ranches. So we're going to give you some insight into how nature works. So that same sequence. And so we'll start with these 4 basic ecosystem processes. So in our courses, we like to talk about these. We actually spend quite a bit of time on these, and we're not going to do that today just because we don't have that luxury. But I want to highlight these 4 processes because they're really important. No matter where you're at, I saw folks from Texas, South Dakota, Missouri, very diverse places here. But no matter where you're at, these processes are working. It's just part of nature. So the energy flow. So for us, the energy comes down to us from the sun. It's free. So far, nobody's figured out how to tax us on that yet. It comes down free of charge from the sun, and that's how the energy flow starts. These plants that are out in our fields and our pastures, through this beautiful process called photosynthesis, they will take that sunlight and convert it to energy that then can be used by ourselves if we harvest that plant for food, or if we're using livestock to come in and graze that, then the livestock get that energy, and then we get that in the form of some delicious steak, right? So the energy flow That's a process that's going on, and we want to understand how that works, and we want to optimize it on our farms and ranches. The next ecosystem process is the water cycle. So I'm sure a lot of y'all have seen the diagram maybe in high school or college where, the water is coming down from the clouds, it's raining onto the land, and some of it's flowing into the rivers and streams, some of it's infiltrating into the ground, refilling the aquifers, it's evaporating, all of these things, right? So the water is a cycle this water's moving through the ecosystem. Next is the nutrient cycle. It's really important for us to understand the nutrient cycle and how nutrients flow and cycle through our farms and our ranches, because that's key for our plant and our livestock health, and ultimately human health. You are what you eat, right? So if you're eating nutrient deficient food, then you're not going to get the building blocks that your body needs to really be healthy. And so the nutrient cycle is really key. Part of that for eons have been ruminants grazing in the landscape and depositing their manure on the ground, and then microbes take that and recycle it, and plants use that to build for their purposes, right? Part of the nutrient cycle is not just what we can see above ground. That's a really key part of it, but below ground, our subsoil micro livestock, if you will, those microorganisms in the soil are so key. They're a very intricate and necessary part of the nutrient cycle. And when we do things that disrupts that soil ecosystem and those microbes, the fungi, and all those microorganisms in there, the bacteria, that hamstrings our nutrient cycle. Community dynamics is this last part. That is essentially just looking at the way the community, whether it's plants, animals, insects, whatever, all of the variety of life connects together, that web of life. And we found that is really important on our farms and ranches, to understand community dynamics, to see how all these different pieces of the ecosystem play their part, right? So one thing that we learn about in nature is generally the more diverse an ecosystem is, the more resilient it is. Diversity equals resiliency. So you have a diverse ecosystem with lots of different organisms, lots of different functional groups playing their part and doing different things to augment the nutrient cycle, the water cycle, energy flow, then you've got a healthier, more resistant ecosystem in the face of drought or any kind of natural disaster. That's another key. So those are 4 ecosystem processes that, if we understand how those function on our farms and ranches, then it's going to do a lot to make us more successful. And so as we transition, I'll just note that, we don't have a lot of time to go into this today, but if you're interested, we've got some online courses and we've got some in-person courses as well that really dives into this. So we understand the ecosystem processes. Let's say we've heard that. We understand that these 4 processes need to be stewarded. How do we do that? Well, we use what we call the 6 soil health principles to steward, to optimize those processes. And here they are: knowing your context, covering the soil, minimizing soil disturbance, maintaining continuous living plants or roots, increasing diversity, and integrating livestock. Those 6 you may have seen presented in different ways with different words, but those are the core principles for regenerative agriculture. They're focused on soil health, because we understand that a healthy farm and ranch operation starts from the ground up. If the soil's not healthy, then everything above ground is going to suffer. So these processes really highlight that soil health and really help us understand how to manage soil health. And then, like I said, the purpose of this webinar is to talk about those things, but then connect it to profitability, to connect it to a thriving farm or ranch business. So I'm going to talk a little bit here in a minute about how these regenerative management practices, how they increase profit by minimizing inputs, producing more forage, storing more water, improving that nutrient availability, and also reducing sick animals. So at Noble, we've done a lot of work on these areas. We've researched some of this, and we've got some good info for you. So we're going to start with context. That's where we got to start, right? I saw so many different folks on this call with every unique operation. Hold on, I'm sorry, I somehow froze. Are you still seeing me, Diego?
Yes, I see you.
Okay, good. My computer froze, so I wasn't sure if I lost you or not.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So we are talking about context, right? Context is really important. Of all the different operations that are represented here on this call today, I would bet the farm that no two operations are exactly the same. They have nuanced differences, even if they're next door. There's differences in management, in goals, right? So knowing your context, knowing your climate, your rainfall patterns, your water resources, the terrain, soil types, historic forages, and management history, and then knowing your goals, knowing your skills, and what knowledge you have, what knowledge you don't have, what you're passionate about. All those things go in together to determine your context. When you know your context, it allows you to spend time and money where they have the most impact, right? So I'm here in Waco, Texas. I am probably not going to want to grow cranberries here because I could probably figure out a way to do it, but it's going to have a lot of time and money invested in it where I could do something else that would be a lot more effective and efficient. Are you tracking with me? Does that make sense? So knowing your context is really key to understanding what your situation is and where to hone in and be most effective. It also allows you to identify different opportunities. So maybe some economic opportunities that you can kind of think outside the box and add another enterprise to your operation. Knowing your context helps you select livestock that's more adapted to your location and to your management style and to your market as well. And so knowing your context is really key because it can really determine whether you're going to be hitting your head up against the wall or whether you're going to be profitable. The next soil health principle that we'll talk about is covering the soil. And this one, guys, this one's so key. So covering the soil is important because when you think about the ecosystems around the globe, when you think about whether it's the savanna, the rainforest, temperate forests, wherever you at that you've got healthy functioning ecosystems, right? I'm not talking about the Sahara Desert, but healthy functioning ecosystems that are vibrant and full of life, you've got a covering on the soil. And what that soil covering does is it captures more energy. So remember, we talked all the way back about those 4 processes. This covering the soil gives you more plants that have those little leaves like solar panels that capture that solar energy and really make that energy flow go. It also allows the rain to soak in and be stored, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. It prevents erosion. Covering the soil moderates soil temperature. It limits your evaporation. And a key thing is it protects that soil biology. So covering the soil and keeping the soil covered helps that soil biology thrive. And if you are consistently turning that soil over with heavy tillage and exposing it to wind and sunlight and heat, that's going to impact that soil biology in a very negative way, right? So I've been out with a temperature gun on a 90 something degrees, and I've gone out and I've shot the soil surface temperature, and it's over 140, 145 one time. And that's, guys, that's a little more than I like to cook my steak. So if that soil temperature is at 145 degrees, what do you think's happening to that soil biology? All that bacteria, all those little microbes in the soil that actually have a symbiotic relationship with your plant, and plants depend on those for their life and their health. Man, if the soil is at 145, you're cooking those guys, and that's sterilizing your soil to the degree where it's not going to be as healthy. It's not going to be as profitable. And so we could go on and on about the benefits of covering the soil, but I want to hone in on this water. When we say allows rain to soak in and be stored, we have this image on the top right. You see the difference on one side of the road to the other. This is actually a cooperating producer of ours in southern Oklahoma on the left, and this is their neighbor on the right. We call him, just in joke, we call him Mr. Infiltration, because you can see the water is infiltrating into his soil. Whereas his neighbor, man, the water is not penetrating that soil surface. It's just sitting there evaporating and not doing him much good. And so he sent us this picture back in 2017, and we were wondering, man, what is the difference here? So we sent some folks out to take soil samples. So they took this machine, and you do a soil core. So you drill down and you get a core down deep into the soil. And here's what we observed at 4 foot deep on Mr. Infiltration's site. We saw worm holes and root channels 4 foot deep. So those are obviously channels for water to infiltrate, right? The practices that he was doing allowed the roots to go that deep in his fields. So the picture that he sent, we'll go into this a little bit. It was a 5.3 inch rain event, October of 2017. And so you see Mr. Infiltration, our friend over here on the left, and his neighbor on the right. And so I want to break this down a little bit. So the neighbor was not using regenerative practices. It was a conventional heavy tillage, small grains, no cover crops, no grazing, just very conventional. And his infiltration rate, we did some calculations, was 0.6 inches an hour. And so when you have a rain event like this, and in our area of the country, we have these larger rain events that just dump water a couple inches or more at a time and then move on. So we had these strong thunderstorms that come through, and if this guy's only taking 0.6 inches an hour and soaking it in, there's going to be a lot of runoff. There's going to be a lot sitting on the soil surface. And when you calculate that out, that's 16,507 gallons of water per acre that's stored. That's his stored capacity. Versus our friend over here on the left, he manages with regenerative ag principles. So some of those principles that we're talking about now, he's utilizing those. So he uses no-till. He doesn't disrupt the soil, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. He uses cover crops, regenerative grazing. So this actually happened pretty quick. So up until about 2006, he was very conventional as well. He did deep, heavy tillage with wheat, and then wheat again, and wheat again. He didn't do any rotation. And then in 2006 to 2012, he switched to no-till. And then he started throwing some stockers on there, some cattle. And then 13 to 15, somewhere in there, he started doing more rotation, and he would rotate in other crops. And then he did after that more cover crops or more rotation, but he also threw in cover crops. And then he did less stockers and did more cows. And then this happened in 2017. So, it was a process for him. He took one step at a time, but he eventually was doing these regenerative principles. And in the process, he was healing his soil. He was regenerating, making the soil better, making the land better, to the point where he's able to infiltrate 2.9 inches an hour, and his water holding capacity was 78,740 gallons of water per acre. That's a significant difference. And when you're in southern Oklahoma, North Texas, that's a big deal to have that water storage. So I want to break this down a little bit more, and we'll give you a visual here. So this is the book rate. So if you look at this slide, that is what the book says the water holding capacity should be in that top 48 inches of soil. So if you are healthy, if your soil is healthy, it should be something close to that. So this was our friend, Mr. Infiltration. His soil was holding 9.2 inches. That was his available water holding capacity. The neighbor was 0.2 inches. And our guess is that was only in that little top 10 inches because of his heavy tillage. It created a plow pan or a compacted layer that restricted water movement below that. And you see the difference, 9.2 inches versus 2 inches. That's significant. When you think about our area of the country, our friend Mr. Infiltration, he had a lot of water holding capacity, a significant difference, a lot more. But also, what that means is he can go longer between rain events. So if you look at this slide, we did a little math here and took the average evapotranspiration per day, and then divide it by how much water you have in the soil. That's the amount of days, 61.3 days. That's how many days our plants have water available to them before they start suffering between rain events. Make sense? Versus our neighbor, he only had 13 days because his infiltration was significantly less. His water holding capacity of his soil was significantly less. And so by just about 2 weeks, he's starting to hurt. His plants are suffering. And often we go longer than that between rain events in our country. So that's important. So what does covering the soil do? It captures and holds more moisture, which means increase in plant production, right? So that increase in forage or plant production, it'll reduce your need for purchased inputs, livestock feed, synthetic fertilizers, right? So you're having to pump less because you're getting less money into your operation because you're getting some stuff for free. So covering the soil is really important. I wouldn't necessarily go, well, I may say that it's the most, if you can do any one thing tomorrow, if you just cover the soil, that's going to get you down the road pretty significantly. If of all the soil health principles, that one I think I've seen in my experience make the biggest, most dramatic difference. Okay, so let's look at minimizing unnatural soil disturbance. So when we talk about that, we're talking about things like heavy tillage. We're talking about overgrazing. That is a unnatural soil disturbance. We're talking about things like haying to the point where you're mining out all the nutrients from your pastures. That's a soil disturbance that's unnatural. It is not common in nature. Chemical fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, those are soil disturbances that can cause disruption in your four ecosystem processes, right? It impacts negatively your soil biota, the life in the soil. It damages the relationships between the plants and the soil organisms, and it hinders those four ecosystem processes we talked about from being fully optimized, right? The energy flow, the water cycle, the nutrient cycle, and community dynamics. So when you minimize unnatural soil disturbance, you reduce equipment, labor, and fuel expenses. You're improving forage because the soil structure is improved, the moisture is improved, your water holding capacity is better. Your those soil microbes and those what they do is they help improve the soil structure. They help improve the soil organic matter, and your soil as a whole becomes healthier. You get more effective rainfall. Increasing diversity is another one that we want to talk about. So increasing diversity, and that's plants. So not just species, but it's also different types of plants, different functional groups. You've got grasses, forbs, legumes, trees, which, your woody plants. The more plant diversity you have, the more different types of solar panels you have collecting that energy, the more connection and relationship those plants have with the soil microbes, and the more different types of nutrients are being cycled through the system. And so the more diversity you have, the better in your pastures and in your fields. But we're not stopping there. We want to look at livestock. So can you add diversity to what you're running? So cattle may go through, and they're more, their preference would be more the grasses. But if you got a lot of woodies, or if you got a diversity in your forbs, maybe sheep or goats especially would really augment that process. So think about expanding. We see a lot of producers that have multiple different livestock species on our ranches. We've traditionally just had cattle, but we brought in goats and sheep when we were really seeing wanting to implement these principles more focused, more focused way. And man, we saw a lot of benefits from bringing in goats and sheep, not just another income line, but also for the ecosystem. That diversity created something special. And then you're also looking at wildlife, birds, insects, different microorganisms. The more diversity you have, the more nature is doing these jobs that we have kind of decided we need to do, right? So you can reduce your herbicide and insecticide expenses. You've got lots of little number one, you're not spraying herbicide because you like that plant diversity, but then the insecticide, I don't have the slides here, but in one of our ranches, we had a bunch of musk thistle that came up, and the traditional practice would be to come in and knock that stuff out, to use an herbicide or somehow mechanically remove that, right? Because who wants musk thistle? But what happened later in the year is, it wasn't our pastures weren't just musk thistle, but they had some diversity in them. Grasshoppers came into our area of the country quite significantly. And when they came to our ranches, they settled on the musk thistle, stripped it bare, and then moved on. And our grasses were actually saved, and a lot of our other plant species were saved because the grasshoppers, for whatever reason, preferred that musk thistle, ate it, and then moved on to the neighbors and decimated the neighbors, but left us. So, that diversity actually created an opportunity for us to have some of our forage that was saved, and we didn't have to buy in hay or anything like that. Diversity also reduces veterinary costs, your supplements, your minerals expenses, because they're having your livestock has a better diet, right? They have that buffet that they can eat from and have a variety of different nutrients at different times of the year. And so diversity is actually very important for health in your livestock. Just like us. Like I have certain food that I enjoy eating, but the more diversity I have in my diet, the healthier I am. So let's skip on to maintain continuous living plant and roots, right? So what that does, if you have those plants going on all year, they're cool and warm season plants, they're photosynthesizing throughout the year. You've got, even if plants are dormant, they're still around, they're still doing some stuff with the soil microbes, maybe not at the same scale or intensity as they would at, the growing season, but living plant roots improves your nutrient uptake, your biological activity. It increases your forage, right? So if you've got cool and warm seasons and those living plants are doing their thing, you've got more for your livestock to munch on out in the pastures. And so it decreases your cost of buying hay. Lastly, the last principle is integrating livestock, right? So you want to integrate livestock by optimizing your stocking rate, plan and graze adaptively, and manage recovery to increase the soil health and decrease inputs. So livestock are really key. Most of our ecosystems here in North America evolved with these large ruminants on the landscape. And, where we don't have bison anymore, we can have a cow kind of fill that role. Or variety of other livestock, sheep and goats. They actually serve an important role in our ecosystems. They recycle nutrients. So remember that nutrient cycle. Livestock are really key with maintaining that nutrient cycling. So they trample down your litter, and that hoof impact increases the seed contact with the soil. It actually breaks up soil crust as well. That livestock will take out some of the older lignified grasses and stuff and stomp it down, providing some coverage to the ground, but also encouraging new growth. It also adds income to your operations, right? So our friend before, Mr. Infiltration, he added stalkers to his wheat, right? So that's another income stream for him. Integrating livestock, if you do it well, when it's stocked below carrying capacity, then you've got all these other principles in place, then you're actually reducing hay, you're saving on any kind of fertilizer as well. So we talked about that. Yeah. So integrating livestock, I just want to highlight here that as you integrate livestock to your operation, maybe you haven't before, but that they're a great way to get some more income and to also help your natural ecosystem function optimally, right? Without livestock, without animals, the ecosystem isn't working at 100%. So let's see. I just want to highlight, we've got some courses. I mentioned that a couple times. We've got both online and in-person courses. And I saw a question in the chat asking about the cost. We do charge for our courses, but we aggressively try to keep that cost down. And we have grants and we have scholarships for y'all if y'all are interested in the courses. One of our next courses that we have coming up is the Land Essentials, and that's here in Waco, Texas in June. So I'd encourage y'all to check out our website. We also have consultations. So that's all I've got right now, Diego. As far as the presentation, we could stop sharing.
Yeah, we got a couple of questions in the chat. And if anyone else has questions, feel free to put them in the chat while we answer these right now. But we have one saying, did y'all have to invest a lot in upgrades to infrastructure to add sheep and goats?
That's a great question. So we actually have our sheep and our goats on temporary electric fencing. And so the infrastructure cost wasn't significant. Our cattle were already on electric fence. We still had our perimeter fences. This remained the same, but we didn't have to upgrade fences because we were doing kind of an adaptive rotational system where we have a solar energizer, a portable solar energizer, and then step-in posts with polyline, and that we've trained our animals to that. And for the most part, they'll stay in. You always do have a few anomalies, but yeah. So I hope that answers your question. One of the things I love about regenerative agriculture is you don't have to break the bank to get into it. You can take little steps, and if you're already doing stuff conventionally, then you can just do a few alterations to employ some of these principles in practice. Or if you're getting into regenerative ag, it's not a big infrastructure cost. Some of these, step-in posts, you can go down the farm store and get some for pretty cheap if you're just starting out and you're on a shoestring budget. So all that to say, there's some benefits economically for getting into regenerative ag as well.
All right. Another question. That's this from someone who's never planted crops without tilling the soil. Any advice on how to, do that without tilling?
Yeah, there are a lot of really great organizations for different places around the country. We've got different like no-till groups. Some NRCS, Soil Conservation Services, actually have no-till drills that they rent. And so it's you can use some of the same processes, but the tooling in a little differently. We're talking about our friend there in Comanche County who switched from conventional to regenerative, and he just converted to a no-till drill and did some other things. And so we'd love to give you some more tips on that. If you reach out to me or jump onto our website, you can see some resources there. Our courses, we talk through that a little more in depth. But I would say it's definitely possible. And the number one thing is your no-till drill they've come a long way in a lot of that technology.
And does Noble Research Institute accept GI Bill for courses?
We have our own in-house discounts and grants and scholarships, but we at this point haven't gotten to that where we've got the GI Bill we haven't been able to accept the GI Bill yet. But I know we've got some folks that are working on it. I just don't know when that'll be.
All right. We got time for a couple more questions. Let's see. Um, and if you see one too, Sky, you can go ahead and answer. I'm looking right now.
Let's see. I just saw one pop up from Tyler, looks like in Florida. There are a couple online resources that I would encourage you to look at. Number one is the Soil Web Survey. That will give you your basic idea when you're a farmstead or a piece of property to buy, what the soil type is and what the potential is. You can also go this thing called RAP, Range Analysis Platform, and it does some really cool stuff where you can evaluate how productive that land is. Oh, thanks, Melissa. Soil Web Survey. And then I'll put in the chat here in a minute that RAP, the Rangeland Analysis Platform, is a cool way to kind of assess your how your energy flow is working. We talked about that ecosystem process. The wrap is a way that you can assess that. And so those are two off the top of my head that I think would be able to work.
Okay, I think that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you, Sky, for a great presentation, and thank you everyone for the great questions. I put his email in the chat if anyone else wants to reach out to him afterwards, but just in case, I put it one more time. For anyone that wants to learn more about Noble Research Institute, just look up noble.org and go visit their website. I put it in the chat as well. Again, this is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. I'll put the link in our chat. And yeah, Sky, we need to have you again. Maybe have a multiple series webinar because this was great. We didn't have enough time. So we're hoping to have you again on our webinar series. Hope everyone had a great time. Any last words, Sky?
Yeah, I just say keep up the good work. I'm privileged to be a part of what y'all are doing and really believe in y'all and love to be a resource. It's worth pursuing what y'all are pursuing.
Thank you for that, Sky. And thank you everyone for joining us. Well, I'll be in touch when the webinar is up on our YouTube channel. So thank you and take care.
Bye, everyone.